Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I'm going to tell you a story. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to. I'm going to tell you about the market of goods and the job market. Very often when you're told about reforms, you're told about job market. There's a law that has been passed in France. I want to know what you think about it, and I won't tell you what I think about it. But this is something you must really understand. The matter of market of goods, I'll give you a number of examples, such as buses, hairdressers, other types of examples are very important. The first thing I'd like you to have in mind, all the stories I'm going to tell you are stories that are based on data from companies, from individuals. These are studies that have been going on in countries of the world for 10, 15 years, and that give the same answers. In a way, you will not increase productivity by making Air France a very agile company. The growth in productivity in an economy is the arrival of new companies with new products that will enable and sometimes replace, with all the problems it can produce, those that are already there. So these new companies, this is what data tell us, are innovative and are productive from the very beginning. Sometimes they're not able to develop, but they create jobs, they export, they generate profits. And productivity and increase in productivity are the only sources of job creation. And the increase in productivity does not go again increase in jobs. If there's something I'd like you to remember from this exposition, contrary to what the people from the Employers Association tell you, it's not the big companies that create jobs. It's the young companies that do. This is something new we've known for 10 to 15 years. In normal countries, not in France, these companies grow very quickly. You know what they call the new companies, the unicorns. And what research shows is that these young companies, they hire young people. Isn't that fantastic? We could even hire our own kids. And there's something else you need to have in mind, is that the job creation deficit in France has nothing to do with the job deficit in the industry. I'm happy our friends from Renault came earlier on, and they touched upon a number of topics I'll mention later on, mobility. Renault is less and less of an industrial company in many regards, because it's also working in the area of services, and they are very fragile notions. And innovation, you've seen what's happening with the Uber. I'm not saying that the way things were managed was smart, but we have general processes at work there. So this is an interesting example with what happened in 1986. Somebody, Balladur, he's the guy who had gloves on when he was shaking your hand, the economy, the minister of the economy. He said, we are going to liberalize transportation. Imagine, at once, he said, we're going to change the rules in the margins in the transportation sector were eroded, the profit in these companies sank, and jobs in this area well multiplied. There were strikes in 1995, but there was an increase in jobs, and the deregulation provoked the growth in the employment rate. There are thousands of such examples. The Royer law about supermarkets, it seems that there's a causal effect between the Royer law that wanted to protect small shops And that's an effect on prices, on job and concentration. The same for road transportation. Compete against the SNCF was illegal. All ladies were paying the price because they didn't have their driving lessons, because they hadn't been to the army as a conscript then, and young people who don't have money. And this does not destroy jobs within the SNCF, because this is too expensive for them anyway. So I wrote that Macron got here because one day I was talking to Mr. de Villepin and said, you know, if you open in this area, you could create 5,000-10,000 jobs. It would be good for prices. He looked at me in a fairly arrogant way, and later he proposed the CPE law, which gave rise to so many demonstrations, you remember? Oh, okay, great success. Now, if you have kids, you know it's difficult for them to have a driving license. It's expensive. And you know that the end of the military service was fantastic for driving school, because this is where young men used to learn driving. And, well, that was an inequality between men and women in this area. There are a number of examples. We have our friends, veterinary doctors who go to Belgium to train there, our doctors who go to Romania to train. Not that they are not training people well in Romania or in Belgium. It's just that it's only those kids whose parents can pay for it that can go and study in these countries. So in a nutshell, there's a deficit in job creation in services and trade. Opening up access creates job and lowers prices, especially for young people and poor people. Walmart has a very bad reputation, but everything shows that those who are very happy in the United States that Walmart opens are the black population, because it's cheaper, and it means they're going to have more money to do other things because they're going to save on food. Now, if we were like the Danes, producing a very well-trained workforce, everything would be all right. We wouldn't need these poorly skilled jobs, but we have this specificity and this law for the production of 150,000 people without a diploma every year. It's a pity. We could talk about ways to remedy it. At any rate, there is a problem. So everything we should do well, the creation of wealth, the creation of jobs, does not take place in France, and it's all the more regrettable since we need mobility. What's mobility? Mobility means to leave the company that's not doing well, to go to the company that wants to grow. The whole debate we haven't talked about with the law on the work market. This is what it hides. What's happening in Belfort right now? There are people who've been working there for 10, 15, 20 years who don't want to leave because they know all their rights are attached to the Alstom company in Belfort, that geographic mobility is very difficult, and that it will not be easy for them to find another job elsewhere because for lack of lifelong learning, etc. So they are paralyzed, they're stuck there, and it's not satisfactory. What did our friend in Austria did? We talk about northern countries all the time, but let's look at Austria. This is a country with its weaknesses and strengths. You've seen the elections that went a bit weirdly. Well, they decided to go over from a system which would be very reasonable if it existed in France, which is when you're laid off, it happens also there. Whether you're in a small or in a big company, you get an amount that's linked with the time you've been in this job. 1 month if you've been there for 3 years, and you've been there for 10 years, 6 months, wait, if you're laid off. If you've been there for 20 years, you are given 1 month 1 year wage. This is the amount you get. No negotiation, it's said. What did the Austrians did from January 2003? They said there's no difference between those people you laid off and those people who quit. They have an account, and this account you take with you. You quit, you take this money with you to the next company. This is real portability. What are the effects? I've worked on these topics with very precise data, and it shows that you have a coexistence of both systems, sometimes in the very same company. When there's a company that closes down, where in the older system, people wait to get the money they should get according to the number of years they work there. In the new system, these people, they move. As soon as they see the company is not in good health, they leave the company. They don't lose anything. And what do? They go towards the young companies, those companies that need to grow. There's a number of companies in front that can't grow because the people they need to work for them are stuck in companies waiting for the money that they will receive if they're laid off. Work contracts, well, I want to tackle that. I want to talk about the things. So, of course, one of the downsides of this episode is the way this loi travail, this law on work was done, because you have to give safety to the workforce before you set up a process to lay them off. It hasn't been done, and this is one of the problems in our society. You need to help the workers feel safe. One of the obvious reforms would be, as did our Swedish friends in the 70s, divide by 10 the number of communes. This would help reduce unemployment. We could get back to that. Another example. What happens is that a number of people have no rights, have no existence. New companies, those companies that want to be created, have no rights. Young politicians, again, I'm going to talk about Macron, but what's specific about him is that he's young. This is a huge difference. I'm fed up with seeing people who are my age or more in power. So entering is difficult, which means that all those who want to enter the job market, the market of goods, have difficulties, and everything gets stuck because of this. So I'm positive. I'm here. If I adopt a number of fairly simple reforms, then they will be difficult to impose, because there'll be strong resistance, because the driving school do not want us to say, after 30 years, you are given your license. The United States, from the age of 16, why the age of 16? Because it's difficult to go from Belen to Newport, where you are training as an apprentice in a butcher shop. And people need a car. So there are things to be changed that are very handy, that citizens would understand, that it would be very difficult to establish. Thank you very much. I hope I convinced you at least a little bit about 2 or 3 things.